So during my annual State of the City address, I take the opportunity always to look back and on the previous year and to highlight, what the city has done, kind of bring all of you up to speed. And then I always look a little bit forward as well, to what to expect this year, what's coming. And so it's kind of a where have we been and where are we going scenario for all of you today. But before I begin, can we all just take a breath for a moment and just acknowledge actually how hard this past year has been? It's been a tough year for both residents and businesses. So whether it's growing families, immigrant newcomers, students, seniors, youth, people just starting out here, people experiencing poverty or homelessness, trying to start a business, we just need to acknowledge kind of right up front, it's been tough out there this past year. I see it, I hear it. My colleagues on council, they hear it, they see it. We get the emails, we have the conversations all the time. It's been difficult. And I think unless we collectively actually acknowledge just for a moment to say yeah, it's been a little bit of a tough year. It hasn't been great for everybody. We need to try to acknowledge that so we can to understand why it is a challenging time and perhaps how it's going to be difficult to kind of find some paths forward. And we are, and we will. But we have to kind of catch up and keep up. And one of my jobs as the mayor is to do just that, try to acknowledge things that can be very real that people are experiencing, and then to also try to get that path in leading us at City Hall and beyond. But despite all those challenges, I am very proud that Guelph has demonstrated that we are a city of resilience. We still had many, many wins in 2024, and I'd like to highlight those for everybody here today. So let's talk about the market housing front. So we began last year, right around this time, with an announcement from the federal government that the city was awarded $21.4 million under what's called the Housing Accelerator Fund. And that's to help fast-track housing. There's specific goals embedded in that, an extra 740 homes to be exact with the number. And those funds are being used to accelerate transformative and real process changes, systemic changes within City Hall. And that really drives changes in both policy and processes, program enhancements, to remove barriers and hurdles to try to get more housing actually done in our city. One of the things I wanted to have you take a look at now is just a little bit of a describing video on the Housing Accelerator Fund.
New funding is helping the City of Guelph get more homes built faster. In January 2024, the Government of Canada announced $21.4 million for Guelph through the Housing Accelerator Fund. The funding will help the city incentivize the creation of 739 new housing units above the city average by 2026. Here are some of the steps we're taking. We're removing barriers and speeding up development application approvals with streamlined, modernized processes. We're exploring incentives for homeowners to build additional housing units like basement apartments or self-contained units in backyards. We're looking at our zoning regulations and how we can better enable additional housing units in Guelph's residential neighborhoods. We're exploring partnerships and grants to make it easier to build affordable housing units. We're accelerating the work needed to modernize municipal infrastructure like pipes and roads to keep pace with housing targets. And we're looking at city-owned lands and partnership opportunities that will unlock more space for affordable housing. By using this funding to accelerate transformative changes to how we approach getting homes built, we'll see long-term benefits that will continue to stimulate construction of almost 9,500 housing units in Guelph by 2034. Learn more about these and other plans to build more homes faster in Guelph at guelph.ca/housing.
So that's a little describer there. That's fantastic background music in that video too. But the first year of the Housing Accelerator funding focused, as I said, on policy, which leads to process, which then needs to lead to results. Of course, in the end, the city will be judged by our results. But we first needed to build all that policy and process work as a foundation. So 2024 was largely about altering the policy landscape so that the city can be ready for the big housing changes that are coming. Now, here's some of the policy actions that the city has taken. In December, Council approved amendments to allow up to 4 units as a right on properties. In 2023, the province had already mandated 3 units as of right, but Guelph is saying, no, we're going to do 1 additional. So now it's 4. Guelph was actually ahead of the province on these legislative changes, and we are continuing to lead. Here's one that I just toured a few months ago that was built in town. At the same time, Council approved Guelph's 10-year housing affordability strategy, which builds on the work of the city's official plan and Wellington County's 10-year housing and homelessness plan. This strategy includes 30 actions that support the citywide 30% annual affordable housing target and addresses affordable housing issues in the private market. Now, of the 30 actions in the strategy plan, a significant one is actually being presented to City Council just next week. The Community Improvement Plan provides incentives for development for affordable housing, and the proposal includes a vacant unit renewal grant to convert uninhabitable residential and vacant non-residential space into affordable residential rental units, a new affordable housing unit grant to develop new purpose-built affordable rental or ownership units, and an additional dwelling unit grant to develop new affordable ADUs, additional dwelling units, for rental. A small selection of the other strategy plan actions that stood out to me personally, and they do have my full support, so a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge to my council mates here as we vote on this, is reducing or removing parking requirements for new affordable housing. Installing parking adds a significant cost to building housing units, so allowing their reduction just makes financial sense. Collecting, monitoring, and using data on existing affordable housing stock to guide policy development, which could potentially then lead to things like perhaps a renoviction bylaw, rental replacement bylaws, and issuing a call to all community organizations and private developers who have land or existing buildings available that could be converted into affordable housing. It's important for the city to engage and partner with different groups from across the city to help address our housing affordability challenges. Now, the city is also initiating the Downtown Building Heights Study to increase flexibility for higher density development throughout the downtown. Strategically locating taller buildings in specific areas will help limit impacts on existing neighborhoods, and it will also help try to protect the historic core and our heritage as well. Even the Catholic Diocese has reached out to my office with renderings of potential height and density in the downtown core. Take a look, just like that, right there. It's kind of a dad joke. That was bad. Someone's going to take a picture of that, and it's going to be all over social media. Be like, look at this. It's real. Look, increased heights and density will produce more property tax revenue with decreased operating impacts that will benefit the entire city, no matter where you live or operate your business. There are still more policy initiatives to come, folks, but actions the city are previously undertaken and are taking, they are showing great results. So I want you to watch one of those results right now with this video.
Hey everyone, so you just heard me on stage speak about some of the policy changes that the city of Guelph has made over the past couple of years to try to make housing easier to get built, especially when it comes to infill opportunities. So I'm here with actually one of our local developers. It's Spruce Living, and I'm here with both Zach and Andrew. Thank you very much for being here. You are building a lot in the city of Guelph. We happen to be on Janefield right now, and can you just tell us what used to be here from a dwelling perspective and what is here now?
This used to be 3 single detached houses. We've torn down 2 of those houses and have built 30 units in the format of semis with basement apartments and tiny homes in the rear yards.
Wow, so you've got sort of a unit up, a unit down, and then you've got tiny homes in the backyard. What's it like working with city staff? This is a new sort of product, right? The policies allow for this type of infill within the city of Guelph now. And so it's kind of new for everybody. What's it like working with the city to try to get these things done?
Yeah, they've been great. I mean, since the start, like I said, April of 23, and even the year leading up to that, and going through the changes that were required to the zoning bylaws. We spent a lot of time on the phone with the different planning staff, going through everything, and they've been wonderful to deal with.
Let's go check out the tiny homes. I've always been a big fan of those anyway, so why don't we go check that out now?
Awesome.
So we're in the tiny home, but it doesn't feel too tiny. This is a 2-bedroom.
Yep, 2-bedroom. Yeah.
I think at one of your other sites, you told us about you built them as accessible units. Can you talk to us about that?
Yep. So our site on Forge Street, the tiny homes in the rear yard, because of the way the elevation of the ground worked out, we were able to do ramps up to the units and make them fully accessible units.
That's great. That's great.
So there you have it. Policy changes are resulting in actual new housing being built in our city. So thanks very much to Andrew and Zach for showing us around that smart, innovative way of developing here in the city. It goes a long way to help us meet our housing targets. And these sites are simply amazing. They really are. And they could serve as inspiration for a lot of us here in the room. They also are developing their sites with heat pumps as well, which is really great to help with our environmental goals as well. And you heard they also had positive feedback working with our staff in the whole building process. But they aren't the only ones that are saying some really great things about working with the city. Here are some actual quotes sent to the city randomly that demonstrate the value, the dedication, and professionalism our city staff are bringing to housing developments here in Guelph. Overall, the new process is much better. We're anticipating that this will streamline the process and save about 2 weeks from not having to demo, rebuild for inspections, and anywhere from $5 to $30K in hard costs per triplex. I wanted to tell you that I have been working with another city to get a building permit. It was 15 days after I dropped off the permit before I heard anything from the plans reviewer. And no one even let me know it was done. And I was kind of greeted with terseness in every conversation with the staff there. Such a stark difference to what I've always experienced here in Guelph. Makes me feel very grateful for the work you and your team in Guelph are doing. You have been working so hard to improve the process for members of your community. I wanted to let you know that top to bottom, the process was easy. The inspectors were accommodating and willing to work outside the lines a little bit to allow common sense to prevail. Thank you for your work to improve the process for members of our community. Here's another. I also wanted to express my heartfelt gratitude for your exceptional support throughout the building inspection process. Your prompt responses and efficient handling of every step made a significant difference in ensuring everything was completed smoothly and on time. Thanks to your professionalism and dedication, we were able to finalize the inspection without any major issues. I truly appreciate the effort you put into making this process seamless for us. So of course, it's all well and good to look at the big picture when it comes to housing, but it's also important to look at how residents are actually impacted by these different housing initiatives and policy changes. So I had the pleasure of actually running into someone totally by accident in the city just in December last year. And I had this really heartwarming discussion with a senior about her housing struggles here in Guelph. Now, she's been a resident in Guelph for a very long time, but she was told that she needed to find a new place to live. In our current housing crisis, it literally seemed impossible for her to try to find another place that could accommodate her, but also that was affordable and in her budget. So unfortunately, she was left with no other option, but she was starting to look outside of town, about 45 minutes away from Guelph. And that was a huge problem for her because she has an adult son. The son does live independently, but has developmental challenges and needs to be close to her son on a daily basis. Moving out of Guelph would have created a huge burden for her, but it literally seemed like it was the only option. That is, until a backyard tiny home additional dwelling unit became available, and it shoved them a lifeline. I'm thrilled to say that her new home, which is now made possible because of the policy and process changes that we've made at City Hall, She has found a tiny home that she is able to now rent and stay in Guelph at a monthly price that she can afford, and she can also be really close to her adult son that needs help. This is just one example of what housing affordability strategies, policy changes, and process can do to try to make a real difference in people's lives. But I do want to talk to you now about some of the numbers. In 2024, the city unfortunately did not meet its provincial housing target of 1,500 homes. As of the most recent reporting date, there were only 849 housing starts in the city of Guelph. To put things into perspective, though, Guelph is far alone in this issue. Of the 50 municipalities that are provincially tracked, Guelph is one of 41 that did not meet the housing targets last year. Still, of those cities, Guelph was in the top 30% of doing, as well as we possibly could. This shortfall is largely due to higher building costs faced by developers and builders, including rising construction prices and more. Some higher interest rates are causing a huge problem and a significant role for both potential buyers and even the financing required for some developers. And many builders, both here locally and elsewhere, are telling me that the pre-sales for new homes have completely dried up. With lower Bank of Canada rates constantly on the horizon, people are just waiting, and they're waiting. And we're in the midst of elections, so people are waiting. There's uncertainty in the air with US tariffs. They're waiting. So there's a lot of waiting going on, and that's one of the biggest issues that we're having. But take a look at this slide. I found this to be relevant. The city did achieve the 2023 goals and received $4.7 million in funding from the province under what's called the Building Faster Fund. So I'm obviously extremely disappointed that we missed the 2024 targets, and we may not then receive that money this year. I find it to be completely unfair, and many of my other mayoral colleagues also find it to be unfair, because I've said many times before, and I'll say it again here today, cities don't build houses. The private and charitable or nonprofit sector, they build houses. We approve them, okay? Guelph Council and staff, we don't control industry capacity, buyer demand, interest rates, uncertainty, and developers' decisions, whether they want to move ahead or not. The city is fully focused on meeting these targets. We are. But some of it is completely out of our control. And so penalizing our city and 40 others, it just doesn't help with holding those funds that are needed. And those funds just hurt everybody else. The money that we would receive, or any of the other cities would receive, they would go to housing-enabled infrastructure to unlock more housing within the city. So I have a great idea. Just give us the money. Just give us the money. Then we can just unlock the infrastructure that we need to build more housing. And I think that would be a big push that I am saying out loud now, because we are in the midst of a provincial election. So I hope you don't mind me going off script there a little bit. Look, there is certainty around some money starting to come from upper levels of government, especially, and I will give credit where credit's due, the Ford government did give some money to us just late last year to help out, but more is required. There's some positive news too, though, okay? So everyone chill. There's some positive news. There are currently 930 housing units under review right now for site plan to get done, and 1,946 other units in the pre-consultation stage. So it's not like, we didn't meet it and we have nothing going on. We have a lot going on that's in the queue and it's coming forward. So the city has made significant improvements to expedite approvals over the last year as well, compared to just 2 years ago. So official plan amendment applications are now 135% faster. Zoning applications are 134% faster. Site plan applications are a whopping 456% faster. City staff is paying attention to the numbers with our Housing Now culture that our CAO, Tara Baker, is leading. Yes, we still have a lot going on when it comes to this issue. Policy to process can take some time, but we do know it's working, and we are going to see the results. Now, I do want to talk to you about the non-market housing side as well. There's been a lot of successes in the past year with many forms of the non-market side. And so first, I really want to hit home how strongly Guelph is funding social services and homelessness supports through the city's transfer of money to the County of Wellington, who is our social service manager for the city of Guelph. In 2025, the city is budgeted to pay $28.9 million to the county. Now listen to this. This is a massive increase of $12.9 million more over just the last 5 years. This goes directly to try to help with social housing and the homelessness issues our city is facing. This is 80.6% increase over the last 5 years. So I got to be honest with you. When I hear that the city isn't taking this stuff seriously, we are. We are taking it seriously. There's always more to do. 100% there's more to do. But we are taking this seriously. Look at these stats. Millions and millions more is going into this. Now, nearly $30 million annually is funded from Guelph property taxes that should instead be supported directly by upper levels of government. We need to have these social housing investments restored. And here are just some of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario stats as we think about the provincial election in front of us. These are issues that are very real to every city, and we need to make sure that people are aware of them. In June, though, at 10 Shelldale, the Kindle Communities opened up this 5-story building that offers 32 permanent supportive housing units. So many organizations were involved to make this happen, but I do want to highlight Skyline or SkyDev, who went above and beyond with land, finances, resources, and advocacy to get this project done. Whenever anyone says that the private sector doesn't care about helping those in need in our community, remember this story. Among the many other stories that could also be told, those types of comments are untrue, and we need to speak against any such narratives like that in our community. Our private sector steps up all the time. In July, the County of Wellington, as our designated social services manager, also opened the doors to Norfolk Manor, and that's a shelter space for 68 individuals with round-the-clock supports. Let's talk about the UOG. In November, the University of Guelph announced that they are developing a new on-campus residence building for first-year students. The first new on-campus residence in 25 years. This will be a development that could accommodate up to 1,500 students beginning in 2029. Thank you, U of G. Big time. Thank you. In January, the Elliott community celebrated the grand opening of the Edinburgh Long-Term Care Home redevelopment, which added 29 new long-term care beds to our community. And opening any day now is going to be 65 Delhi Street, which is a transitional housing project, which will support up to 28 individuals with transitional housing. Although housing was undoubtedly the biggest focus in 2024, I want to quickly mention a few other key highlights from last year. The total value of grants awarded to the city in 2024 amounted to $60.9 million. In addition to the Housing Accelerator Fund mentioned earlier, 2 grants kind of jump out at me. One is the $13.5 million that was awarded through the Federal Green and Inclusive Communities Building Program, and that's going straight to the Baker Street Library development. And $2.1 million was awarded through the Provincial Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund to support the upgrade of sanitary sewers on Wyndham Street and the water mains on Wellington Street as well. And that's important because that will help with some of the capital investments we need to stimulus not only projects like the library here for our community, but also for housing as well. These also create jobs locally too. We should never forget that. And so these are, economic turbulent times. There's some uncertainty. So the type of grants that we're getting from upper levels of government is really quite good. In June, the city released its 2024 satisfaction survey results, which show that the residents continue to be happy with life here in Guelph. Despite inflationary and other affordability pressures, 88% of residents rated the quality of life as good or very good in Guelph. 70% continue to believe they receive good value for their tax dollars. 88% said they were satisfied with the information or services they receive when they interact with the city. And the most important issues for Guelph residents were, should be no surprise, housing availability and affordability, poverty, homelessness, social issues with food security, and property taxes, or just taxes in general. Not even just property taxes, all taxes in general. I'm with them on that one. I found that to be funny. Thank you everyone for laughing with me there. Now in July, Stats Canada released their annual Crime Severity Index rankings, which ranked Guelph at the 8th lowest nationally and 4th lowest in Ontario. This is the best score the city has achieved since 2015. And at that time, we ranked 19th. I think we should give a huge round of applause for all of our emergency services. We thank our emergency service, paramedics, fire, police, for all you do to keep us safe in our community. Now, I want to also talk to you about our S&P Global ratings. In August, for the third straight year, S&P Global's reaffirmed our city's credit rating at AAA with a stable outlook, the agency's highest possible rating. But I want you to hear me now. I want to be very transparent with everybody. It is unlikely that Guelph will maintain this rating over the next few years. The planned and strategic use of debt to address the housing crisis and other infrastructure demands, it will impact our rating. But this is a worthwhile and necessary step. However, it doesn't take away from Guelph's sound financial planning. It doesn't. Trust me, I asked 1,000 questions on this. The difference in borrowing is negligible. And the alternative was to ignore the capital and infrastructure works required to get more housing built. This is why Council fully acknowledged unanimously and made fully informed decisions that we would prioritize one over the other. It has to be done. So I just want to be very clear. When probably at some point this year our credit rating goes down, none of you in this room should be like, the city has no idea what they're doing. Okay, I'm giving you the heads up. We'll come back, but it was a strategic move for us to do that. Now in September, Council also approved the Downtown Infrastructure Renewal Program. This will enhance streetscaping and greatly expedite construction beginning in 2026, with a huge eye on trying to minimize the impacts to our businesses in the downtown core. And as previously mentioned, Tara Baker transitioned from city treasurer to our CAO just in September of last year. And I am, again, thrilled to be working with her. Tara's CAO objectives came up as well. And these are the corporate strategies I wanted to make sure everyone was in the loop on. And they are key areas like affordability, housing, culture, relationships, and those are all aligned with Council's strategic plan and our corporate values. Also in September, Guelph was awarded 14 projects that were being able to be funded through a $53,000 grant from the Youth Climate Action Fund. They're called the micro grant program. So my time as a board member on the Global Covenant of Mayors has provided me some opportunities to learn about these types of grant programs. And I'm happy through the Global Covenant of Mayors and Bloomberg Philanthropies that this grant could empower and support our youth with climate initiatives here in the city of Guelph. The Guelph General Hospital also opened up the pediatric clinic. And that happened just last year, and it provides support and urgent care and consultation to families as well. By the way, hospital expansion, I should always bring that up. Does anyone know what I always say? Hospitals are provincial. One person in the room knows that. Thank you very much. Okay? Could you tweet that out, everybody? I'd appreciate that. The province is approving next steps when it comes to the hospital, especially around the emergency room. So these updates are dearly needed. We all know that. I just want to thank many from the hospital are here today. Mark, the CEO, Gavin on finance, and many others. Can we just give them a huge round of applause? They do such great work. Julie from the foundation as well. If you're ever looking to give some money somewhere, the hospital will never say no. So look, we desperately need these upgrades at the hospital, big time. Everyone knows that. And they are working on it, and we really need some pressure on the province. Just to put it bluntly, we need some pressure on the province to make sure that they come to the table on that. We also, in October, had the Guelph's public space use bylaw come into effect. The St. George's Square encampment was abandoned, it was dismantled, and returned the square to a public realm for use for everyone. Unfortunately, I'm very pleased that a majority of the unhoused people that were there, they took advantage of the emergency shelter space or other units that were being offered to them. That's a good thing. If we're going to get our public spaces sort of back like this, we also have to remember that there are real people struggling, and we want what's good for them too. So I'd like to thank various shelter organizations that help with the chronically unhoused in our city. And please forgive me if I miss a few here, but Stepping Stone, the Wyndham House, Guelph Wellington Women in Crisis, Hope House, Salvation Army, Chalmers, Thresholds, Kindle Communities, Michael House, The Bench, Community Healthcare Center, Guelph Wellington Poverty Task Force. Dominica, where are you? I saw you in the room somewhere. Dominica, thank you. Let's give all of these organizations, and forgive me if I missed a couple, let's give them a round of applause, because they are in the thick of it, and they're doing a very good job. Now, the spirit of the season downtown was awesome. The Downtown Guelph Business Association did such a great job doing this work. Yeah, who's clapping on that already? Yes. It had the Santa Claus parade, the Santa run, the mayor and council tree lighting with a live band. We had indoor and outdoor marketplaces, the little huts, and these little businesses could succeed and get their products out to people at Christmas time. But this is very cool. They actually were able to raise $34,000 through this event to give back to the Keep Kids Fed at Home charity through the Children's Foundation as well. So I just really want to take a moment to say thank you to the DGBA, the Downtown Guelph Business Association, and all the sponsors that made that work. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And it was a real draw on tourism as well. There was a lot of people from outside the city that came and experienced that. Throughout the year, city staff has also gone and visited over 3,700 businesses across Guelph. Businesses that participated, giving valuable feedback and information to try to strengthen what our city is up to. And it also helps us gather some data and information so that we, in turn, can also, tell them about heads up about maybe policy changes that are coming, or getting their feedback before policy changes are happening. So our ECDev department is doing a really great job, led by James Goodrum and the staff there, Christine Chapman, don't know where, oh, there you are, and others in that department. I go to a lot of ribbon cuttings and visit some of these businesses with our staff. They're excellent. So please, if you ever need help, reach out to our ECDev department. Now, a few weeks ago, the City of Guelph was also named one of Waterloo area's top employers as well. This is the 4th consecutive year. And then just yesterday, I just found out that they named the City of Guelph Southwestern Ontario's top employer. So that's pretty great. We have a great place if you would like to come to work. A little iffy on the mayor, but everything else is good atmosphere there. So yeah, come and check us out if you're looking for work. Look on our website and see what's available for you there. Now I'm going to talk now, just pivot a little bit to some of the economic data, because some of the numbers are important here as well. In 2024, there was over $172 million in industrial, commercial, and institutional construction value. 106 permits for industrial valued at $5 million, 267 commercial permits valued at $75.5, 34 institutional permits valued at $40.6 million. Large businesses are looking to come here, and there's businesses that are expanding here as well. In fact, just last week, Linamar is also expanding its operations across the province, creating thousands of jobs. It was announced $1.1 billion investment from Linamar, including investments from both the province and the federal government. The Cooperators opened its new headquarters, consolidating 5 locations into one with about 1,200 staff in a state-of-the-art building in the South End in the Hanlon Creek Business Park. Amazing. If you haven't had a chance to see that, check it out. It's really wonderful. Kenvue is one of the world's largest pure-play consumer health companies, and they completed a new 18,000 square foot extension at their Woodlawn Road facility. 50 new jobs are coming there. Magna completed a 120,000 square foot expansion to their Polycon facility. We're anticipating 175 new jobs there. And beyond the large businesses, we can never forget about our small and medium-sized businesses as they continue to open, expand, and look for new opportunities in our city too. Speaking of tourism, like I mentioned with the DGBA, we had the Grand Slam of Curling as well. The city and its partners awarded $86,000 in tourism funding. The Grand Slam of Curling was packed in our downtown for almost a week, and Guelph got a lot of love for how we were able to really bring that together, both locally and nationally, with the Grand Slam being promoted. The new Guelph Gather Here brand and marketing initiatives boosted the city's reach, 1.2 million in organic views and reach on social media, and we got some write-ups in papers and media outside of our city as well. So before I talk about what's in store for 2025, I want to look back at my State of the City just from 1 year ago. And here in this room, I announced that I would use the strong mayor powers granted by the province throughout the rest of this council term. And I do intend to do that. I just want to saying what I said last year. If opportunities arise to speed things up within our city, using the strong mayor powers, especially around housing or economic development, I will do that when those opportunities arise. And I will do it very collaboratively in advance with my council colleagues and getting input from them. But it is a tool that can look to accelerate opportunities within the city, and I will intend to use that when the opportunities come. Now, at that time last year when I was standing here, I told you I was going to use it for 3 specific things. First was directing staff to establish the 2025 confirmation budget at a property tax rate of 4% or less. The second one was directing staff to identify strategic real estate partnerships on underutilized city-owned lands or assets that could be changed into housing. And the third was to direct staff to present to council the logistics required to provide a temporary structured encampment site for those experiencing homelessness in the city. And that final directive would have to be in consultation in relationship with the County of Wellington as the social services manager, alongside other healthcare workers that could wrap around the supports and operating supports that those people would need at that site. So I want to talk about that second one first. So the second one, about identifying underutilized pieces of property or assets in the community, that's coming forward to council in March, a full report on that. So I consider that one to be successfully completed. We have the report that's coming forward. And I really want to encourage my council colleagues to come together and to embrace this moment when that report comes forward. Do not let this moment pass us by. In supporting turning these pieces of land or assets into housing, we are doing exactly what I think the community is requesting us to do and what many other communities are doing before us. And I want Guelph to be in that same vein as well. So to my council colleagues, I'm really hoping that you will continue to try to look for opportunities to turn underutilized land into housing. Now, regarding the third one, the temporary structured, like the tiny home type of structured site for an encampment site, the city has done some significant work on that. They technically fulfilled my direction, which was to bring a report to council in the summer of last year. Council then referred the matter to the County of Wellington for their input and review. And we have been told that the county is looking to report back on that very soon, like within the next month or two. And so then we will have some more information in regards to that, whether or not we move forward with something like that. Now, some may say now, okay, well, 2 out of 3 isn't bad. But I am disappointed that my first directive concerning the budget was not realized. We did not achieve the 4% or less budget. And so your natural question is going to be, well, why? Which is fair. Why? Why didn't you do that? So under the original multi-year budget, 2025 saw a projected property tax increase of nearly 10%. And 7.4% of that was just the City of Guelph portion. 2.4% of that was going to be the local boards and other shared services that are sort of outside of the city's jurisdiction. But working collaboratively with staff, we did achieve a draft cap on the city portion of the under 4% numbers we needed. I then spent a couple of weeks going across the city, listening to town halls, doing an online town hall, listening to feedback from businesses, residents, my council colleagues, staff, and more. And these discussions did help me craft what I consider an even better budget with targeted changes that made the city more welcoming, accessible, and affordable for those that need it the most. These improvements, though, they came at a cost. In November, my budget was then formally presented to City Council as a whole, where they amended it a bit further, and they increased the city portion to 3.66%. But let's just stop here for a second. It was proposed to be 7.4%. Okay, we got it cut in half. We got it cut in half at 3.66%. And so I personally am very proud of this. We had to find $15 million in reductions to accomplish cutting the property tax impact by half. And so when, though, our portion is added to the outside boards portion, which for them equaled 3.12%, you add those together, and that's where you get the 6.78% total. So I am still glad that I used the strong mayor powers last year to set the course for a more affordable budget. If all of council, including me, this isn't just on council, if all of us had just not done anything, if we had just simply adopted the original budget, we would have had a 10.51% tax increase. And of course, that's unacceptable. That's way too much. So it is 35 to 40% lower than what we had originally thought. But these increases are too high. They are. And the impacts of affordability to residents and businesses is too much. And so we need to look to do much better moving into next year. So I've talked to many, and I recognize that we did a good job. But this is why this year I am using the strong mayor powers to have a conversation with council and staff first, public meeting, so if you want to get involved, to hear feedback about maybe the collective goals, not just mine, but the collective goals that we could try to set the course for staff to look to have the inputs for the budget impacts moving into 2026 and 2027. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, I still am required actually by law to use the strong mayor powers around budget. But I think the discussion with council first is important, and I'm really looking forward to that. I just want you to know I am 100% committed to doing better in the 2026 budget, and I'm sure my council colleagues are too. Now, heading into 2025, here we go. Next year certainly promises to be largely an uncertain time. With the provincial election now underway, a federal election on the horizon, the ramifications of the U.S. election unfolding in real time, and the city of Guelph has to step up. We must be flexible, we must be dynamic, and we must be resilient. Getting things done faster is but one part of the formula on issues we need to address. But getting things better is also key. One area I've been discussing with city staff overall is around construction management across the city. In an aging city with old pipes in the ground that need to be replaced, and a large portion of our annual budgets are dedicated to road work and other, fixing the pipes in the ground, there's that old saying in Canada, there's only two seasons, winter and construction. And so as much as everyone braces every year for the rollout of all the major road and infrastructure construction work, my push is to find ways of doing it faster and better. And this is why I'm excited to announce that we are now undertaking a full review in 2025 to identify opportunities on such things as doing construction faster, enhancing construction communications, both internally and externally, both prior to, during, and after, improving the construction quality assurance, quality control, any construction mitigation initiatives that can maybe look to support impacted businesses, further relationship building, internal design, tender and contract improvements, including difference of standards of risk tolerance about what we will do in the construction, and other process improvements all around construction within the community. Now, fortunately, there are already several good news stories now for 2025 that I want to highlight. The first, as part of the 2025 budget, I ensured that the city made strategic and compassionate investments in transit. The affordable bus pass is now free for individuals and families in the city who earn under 75% of what is called the low income cutoff. I have talked to many of these transit users, and when they find out that they just realize they're saving $240 a year, money that can now help them go towards food, other transportation, healthcare, and other necessities, rent, they're thrilled. Many of these individuals that will now have free transit are on ODSP or Ontario Works, and those supports have not even kept up with inflation at all. And they're underwater, many of them. This is a real lifeline to these people to help them save some money to be able to get around to the things that they need within our community. The impact is actually really far-reaching. Seniors can now ride the bus for free every day on Thursdays. And finally, youth ages 13 to 17 can now ride for free after 5 p.m. on weekdays, every single weekend, and all of July and all of August. So a couple years ago, the city did it free up to age 12. We're now expanding that. And I've heard from many high school students, many parents and families, they're thrilled about this, especially the parents because they don't want to drive their kids around. They're like, go take the bus. So they're thrilled. And it will help increase ridership within the transit system too. And some of the upper levels of government funding that we get are tied to ridership numbers. So if we can actually up the ridership numbers in this way, we get some more money to help with some of the operations and or capital that's there too. In addition to the Youth Climate Action Fund grant money I mentioned earlier that we got through the Global Covenant of Mayors and Bluebird Philanthropies, I am thrilled to announce that just yesterday, Guelph was confirmed that we are now receiving an additional $100,000 US to activate youth-led climate initiatives in our community. So that's like $7 million Canadian. That wasn't in my notes. There was, I think, over 1,000 applications, and I think only 92, I think I was told, were successful. So we get $100,000 for more climate initiatives for youth in the community. That's great. In addition to also the full report coming in council in March about those underutilized sites that we have in the city, council already agreed to let go of 14 Enborough Road. Now this used to be where the old pottery place is, if you drive by there. And so that is going to now be looked to turn into a minimum of 12 units. It's a demonstration site at this place, and it will be to help with affordable housing, and a lot of that is funded through the Housing Accelerator Fund money that we got last year. Also, the Heart Hub will open in downtown Guelph to support Guelph and Wellington County residents suffering from moderate to severe mental health issues, addictions, and homelessness. The Heart Hub will feature a 24/7 integrated crisis service, stabilization beds, and medically supported withdrawal management beds. And I'm very hopeful that this new service model will provide dedicated supports to those who need it the most. And I am very thankful to the Ford government for these types of investments. Now I have some warnings for 2025. My State of the City isn't always about painting rosy pictures. I'm transparent about some of the things that I have concerns on, and so I wanted to present some of those challenges and a lot of the stuff that keeps me up at night, let's put it that way. There's a lot of political shakeups happening, as I said, America, and potentially even with Canada's federal election as well. Everyone in this room has heard that the Trump administration has paused for 30 days the potential trade war with Canada, which was slated to begin when he imposed any tariffs on goods going into the US. His threats might be just idle talk, or massive tariffs could be implemented now in March or any other time. No one really knows. Economists predict that such a trade war could wreak extreme havoc on the Canadian economy, harming many businesses and costing many people jobs. and Guelph would not be immune to that fallout either. We have a very strong and diverse manufacturing and production sector here, but it would suffer greatly if such tariffs were implemented under such punitive measures. Industry partners with the Federation of the Canadian Municipalities, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus, both the federal and provincial governments are vital when developing contingency strategies and advocating for specific supports. In the coming weeks and months, I'll certainly be monitoring any of the U.S. directives to ensure that the City of Guelph is playing its role in maintaining a resilient manufacturing sector here. Now, as part of the executive team with the Ontario Big City Mayors Caucus, I'm also working with some of my other mayors to actually reach out to other mayors in the U.S., other mayor groups there, to see about how we can try to work together on some common advocacy work across the border. So just as the provincial and the federal governments are doing that, I'm doing that as well to try to establish some ties with my counterparts across the border. The impacts from a Canadian federal policy change when it comes to municipal funding also has me concerned as well. Look, none of us know what's going to happen when it comes to the next federal election, and I am not here to pick any favorites at all. But based on consistent and recent polling, changes certainly could be coming. And should that trend hold, the financial forecast for municipalities could be impacted drastically. And the potential for elimination of the Housing Accelerator Fund money has been already stated. Other clawbacks on other infrastructure funding that we need to unlock more housing in our city has been stated. And it has me a little bit worried because the housing sector and the municipal sector needs certainty. And so in these uncertain times, we just don't know what's kind of coming. And that planning perspective is difficult. I'm not going to debate any of the party politics here on stage. There's positives and negatives to every one of them. But from a mayoral position, which is my role, I have to give you my honest assessment. And I just need to tell you, I am worried on some of the things that I am hearing. And we need to be ready for that, both as a city, as property taxpayers, whatever we're facing this year and the years to come. Some of these factors are out of our jurisdiction, but we need to be prepared. So advocacy for Guelph residents in the provincial election is currently underway. We have what's called a Building Guelph Together campaign that staff have put together. And the city staff have put together like the top priorities of needs for our community. And then I'm going to be meeting with all of the candidates and giving them the same information so that, Guelph is on the radar for what we need in our city. And when a federal election comes, I'll do the same thing. I'll do that with the federal candidates too. I do that every single election. The three key priorities for Guelph through 2025 is to collaborate with municipalities for building housing, invest in community safety and well-being, and reduce reliance on property taxes to support affordability. So I encourage all members, some of them might be in the room here, whether provincial or federal, to get ready to have a coffee with me, and you can buy me the coffee. Look, in a world of uncertainty, Guelph needs to be a beacon of stability and a city of resilience. We must preserve and build strong relationships with external partners, maintain stable finances that support the future growth we have, and we need to embrace a strategic plan that is both adaptive and responsive, yet it's also flexible enough where it needs to be. This is the City of Guelph's mission in 2025, and I cannot do it alone. I need everyone from all walks of life, all lived experiences, collectively making up the diverse fabric of our city to play a role in fulfilling that mission. We can and we will do it together. I don't want to get overly spiritual here, but there is a parable in the Bible that talks about a wise home builder who builds a house on a rock with a firm and stable foundation. And then there was a foolish home builder who built theirs on sand. When the storm comes, when the water rises, when difficult times come, right up to or even over the doorstep, the house on the sand was washed away and destroyed. Yet the house built on the rock was saved. The city of Guelph is built on a solid foundation. We are strong, we are united, not solely because of government, but because of our people in this city. If as a city we are about to push through some difficult times that are coming, I couldn't imagine doing it with anyone else. My council colleagues, the businesses, the residents, the old, the young, the immigrant, the person that's been here for 100 years, the chamber, home builders, private, nonprofit, the charitable people in our city. We can do this. We'll stand together and we'll weather the storms. Guelph won't back down. We'll get through it, and more than likely, just as we have in the past times with different struggles or storms, we will come out of it much stronger because we have that foundation built on a rock. And I'm very proud of our city. We all should be very proud of our city in this moment. Let's make sure that we speak as one voice, saying that we have a great city of resilience. And let's move forward together into 2025, no matter what comes our way. Thank you very much, everyone. And I'll take some questions now. I appreciate you.